Witnesses spoke to senators on the final day of confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson. Judge Jackson faced a slew of tough questions this week from Republicans trying to paint her as soft on crime and often not letting her speak. Democrats, meantime, praised her on her judicial record. On Thursday, members of the American Bar Association were among those who spoke in support of Judge Jackson. They said she was well qualified for an appointment on the nation's highest court. Let's take a listen.
We considered whether Judge Jackson demonstrated any bias that favored criminal defendants. Notably, no judge, defense counsel, or prosecutor expressed any concern in this regard, and they uniformly rejected any accusations of bias.
Judge Jackson's leadership in the legal profession, reputation among such leaders, acclamatory remarks from each of these groups, consisting well over 60 of the top legal minds in our country, further supports that Judge Jackson, as a preeminent member of the legal profession, with outstanding legal ability and exceptional breadth of experience, merits the highest rating of the American Bar Association Standing Committee on the Federal Judiciary, the rating of well qualified to serve on the United States Supreme Court.
CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins me now for more. Scott, that was the pro testimony. What did we hear from those witnesses that were called by Republicans?
Yeah, Lilia, at Supreme Court confirmation hearings, both parties get to bring witnesses in for the final day. And Republicans did bring in a series of witnesses, including the sitting attorney general from the state of Alabama. The questions posed to those witnesses didn't really draw any pointed or specific criticisms of Judge Jackson, but several of them leaned into a general criticism that the judge could be an activist based on her previous opinions, and that there's concern about any would-be Supreme Court justice with a history of criminal sentences that are below what prosecutors recommend. That was the drumbeat that was formed earlier in the week by Republican senators, that a review of the small number of criminal cases she handled involving child exploitation that she had recommended or sought sentences that were below what prosecutors recommended. And the judge was emphatic throughout this week that she was following the sentencing guidelines created and ordered by Congress itself. This final day had a number of witnesses, a high volume of witnesses, but no high-octane, high-spirited moments. This was a quiet, final day of an historic week, Lilia, the first confirmation hearings for a black woman to the high court.
That's right. It is historic. And an interesting accusation there, seeing what we just heard in the reporting here at CBS News coming from the wife of Justice Thomas. Now, is there anything of what we've heard from those witnesses brought in by Republican senators likely to sway any votes? I'm
wondering if any testimony today, Lilia, could sway any votes. The votes seem to be pretty baked in among the Judiciary Committee members. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of ambiguity as to how these Judiciary Committee members are poised to vote. I was focused on one Republican, Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, who a few months ago voted to confirm Judge Jackson to a lower court. Was his vote in play? I asked him that point blank. He didn't answer. So I asked one of his South Carolina congressional delegation colleagues, the Democrat Jim Clyburn, the House Majority Whip. And Mr. Clyburn told me Judge Graham's vote is not going to be a yes for Judge Jackson. So the estimate from a White House official tonight is there are some votes in play. Congressman Clyburn estimates 3 or 4, but all Democrats need is unanimity among Democrats. That would be sufficient to confirm Judge Jackson, and that is very much, after this week, expected for Judge Jackson.
Now, I mean, you mentioned Senator Graham, but earlier Thursday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said he will not vote to confirm Judge Jackson. Can you tell me, do you know what his reasoning was for this?
Based on his statements over the last few weeks, that was not at all surprising. He gave a floor speech late today, Lilia, and he issued a written statement. In it, he says he cannot vote for her because she has not disavowed court packing, the addition of more seats and more justices to the Supreme Court that historically some legislative and executive branch agency leaders have flirted with. The judge was asked about that multiple times during her confirmation hearings. Would she support adding seats to the court? And the judge's response is, that is not a judicial question. The court can't add seats to itself. That's for Congress, for the Senate to decide. But Senator McConnell says he wanted a stronger, more unequivocal disavowal of court packing and didn't get it. He also said that she's only been on the Circuit Court of Appeals for a brief time, has only written 2 opinions. It doesn't have the breadth of work at the appellate level. That being said, that was not a thread Republicans pulled on, at least not frequently, during her meetings and during the confirmation hearings. The senator's statement, Mr. McConnell's statement, was not a surprise, but it was emphatic. He'll vote no.
Right. So what are the next steps? When are we going to see a full Senate hold a vote on this?
Could be soon, Lilia. I mean, there's an expectation the committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, could vote by April 4th. There was a hope, or at least an anticipation, the full Senate could vote before the long Easter recess. So we could see a vote in a matter of weeks. And it's in the Democrats' interest to move swiftly on this. There's momentum from the confirmation hearings, but also there still is that narrow margin. Just 50 Democrats in the Senate with a tie-breaking vote from Vice President Harris. And we've already seen one Democratic senator get sick and be away from Washington for quite a while. They may want to take no chances.
Right. Well, Scott MacFarlane, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lilia.